The distress beacon had been blinking for 17 days when Jake Miller finally found it. His ship, the Wanderer, was an old cargo vessel that he had turned into a salvage ship. It was not pretty. The paint was peeling, and the engine made strange sounds. But it was his home, and it had carried him across the galaxy for 8 years. Jake sat in the captain's chair and looked at the screen. The signal came from a small moon called Valora 7. Nobody lived there. Nobody visited there. It was just a rock floating in empty space. What do you think? Asked Brenda Cole, his engineer. She was a short woman with red hair and grease on her fingers. She was always fixing something. Could be anything, said Henry Park, the navigator. He was older than both of them, with gray hair and calm eyes. He had been flying ships since before Jake was born. Could be a trap. Pirates use fake signals sometimes. Jake thought about it. He knew Henry was right. The galaxy was not a safe place. But he also knew that sometimes signals were real. Sometimes people needed help. "We check it out," Jake said. "If it looks bad, we leave." The Wanderer changed course and flew toward the moon. When they arrived, they found a ship. It was not a cargo ship or a military ship. It was beautiful, with smooth silver walls and golden designs. Jake had seen ships like this before in pictures. It was a royal transport from the Valari Empire. The Valari were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had blue skin, silver eyes, and they lived for hundreds of years. They were proud and powerful. They did not like humans very much. They thought humans were too young, too loud, too emotional. "What is a Valari royal ship doing here?" Brenda asked. "Nothing good," Henry said. Jake guided the Wanderer close to the silver ship. The transport was dark. No lights, no movement. But the distress beacon was still blinking. "I'm going inside," Jake said. "Alone?" Brenda looked worried. "I'll be careful." Jake put on his spacesuit and walked through the connection tunnel into the Valari ship. Inside, it was cold and silent. The air was thin. The power was almost gone. Emergency lights gave a weak red glow. He walked through empty hallways. The walls had beautiful art, paintings of Valari queens and kings. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. The ship had been floating here for a long time. Then he heard it. A sound, soft and weak, like someone breathing. Jake followed the sound. He walked downstairs, past storage rooms, until he reached the lowest level of the ship. There was a door with heavy locks. A prison door. His heart beat faster. Why would a royal ship have a prison? He used his tools to break the locks. The door opened slowly. Inside, he found her. She was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and long silver hair. Her eyes were closed. Her wrists had chains on them. She wore a torn white dress that might have been beautiful once. Jake knelt beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened. They were silver, like mirrors, but filled with pain and confusion. She looked at him like she did not believe he was real. "Human," she whispered. Her voice was dry and broken. "Yes, I'm Jake. I'm here to help." "Can you stand?" She stared at him. "Why? Why what? Why would you help me?" Jake did not understand the question. "Because you need help. Come on. Let's get you out of here." He broke her chains with his tools. She was too weak to walk, so he carried her. She weighed almost nothing. He could feel her bones under her skin. She had been starving for weeks. Back on the Wanderer, Brenda and Henry were shocked. They gave the alien woman water and food. They wrapped her in warm blankets. She ate slowly, like she had forgotten how. "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I am Nira. I was the third queen of the Valari Empire." Jake and his crew looked at each other. "A queen? What happened to you?" Brenda asked. Nira's silver eyes filled with tears, but they did not fall. "I was married to Emperor Talon for 3 years. My duty was to give him children, but my body could not do it. The royal doctors tested me many times. They said I was infertile. I could never have babies." She paused. Her hands were shaking. In the Valari Empire, a queen who cannot produce heirs has no value. I was a failure, a shame to the royal family. The emperor had 2 choices. He could kill me publicly, or he could make me disappear. He chose to make me disappear. So he just left you here? Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He left you to die alone in space? Yes, Nira said simply. I was no longer useful. I was garbage. So he threw me away. The room was silent. Brenda had tears in her eyes. Henry shook his head slowly. Jake stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars. He thought about what kind of people could do this. What kind of culture could throw away a person because she could not have children? What do we do now? Henry asked quietly. We should contact the Valari, Brenda said. Maybe they'll pay to get her back. Jake turned around. No. She's not cargo. She's not something to sell. He looked at Mira. You're safe here. You can stay as long as you want. No one is going to hurt you. Nira looked confused. She did not understand. But, what do you want from me? Nothing? Nothing? That is not possible. Everyone wants something. Jake walked over and sat in front of her. He spoke slowly so she would understand every word. On Earth, where I come from, we believe that people have value just because they exist. Not because of what they can do or what they can give. You don't owe me anything. You don't have to give me anything. I'm helping you because it's the right thing to do. Nira stared at him for a long time. She searched his face for lies, for hidden intentions. She found none. For the first time in 3 years, she felt something other than pain and shame. She felt a tiny spark of hope. She did not trust it yet. Her whole life, she had learned that kindness always came with a price. But this human, this strange man with warm eyes and a gentle voice, seemed different. Maybe, just maybe, she could believe him. That night, Nira slept in a real bed for the first time in weeks. She dreamed of nothing. But when she woke up, she was still on the Wanderer. She was still safe. And Jake Miller was still there, asking nothing from her except to get better. She did not know it yet, but her old life was over. A new one was about to begin. 3 weeks passed on the Wanderer. Nira grew stronger every day. Her pale blue skin got its color back. She could walk without help. She could eat full meals. But her heart was still healing, and that took longer than her body. She spent most of her time watching the humans. She did not understand them. They were so strange to her. In the Valari Empire, everyone had a role. Everyone had a purpose. Conversations were formal and careful. Every word had meaning. Every action had a reason. But these humans? They talked about nothing. They laughed at silly jokes. They played card games for hours when they could be working. They wasted time like it was free. One evening, Brenda invited Nira to dinner. The 3 humans sat around a small table in the ship's kitchen. There was hot soup and bread that Henry had made himself. Come sit with us, Brenda said with a smile. Nira hesitated. In the palace, she had never eaten with servants. Queens ate alone in their rooms, served by silent workers who never looked at their faces. But there were no servants here. There was only a small family of strange humans who treated her like she was one of them. She sat down slowly. Do you like the soup? Henry asked. Nira tasted it. It was warm and simple. Nothing like the expensive food in the palace. but somehow it tasted better. "Yes," she said. "It is good." Henry smiled proudly. "It was my wife's recipe. She passed away 10 years ago, but I still make her soup." Nira did not know what to say. In her culture, people did not talk about dead family members. It was considered weak to show emotions about loss, but Henry did not look weak. He looked peaceful, happy, even. "You must have loved her very much," Nira said carefully. "I did. I still do." Henry laughed softly. "That's the thing about love. It doesn't stop just because someone is gone." Nira thought about that. In the Valari Empire, marriage was a contract. It was about power and children. Love was not part of it. She'd been married to Emperor Talon for 3 years, and she had never loved him. She was not even sure she knew what love meant. After dinner, she found Jake in the main room of the ship. He was sitting by the big window, looking at the stars. He did this often. She had noticed that about him. "May I sit?" she asked. He looked up and smiled. "Of course." She sat down next to him. The stars were beautiful from here. Millions of tiny lights in the darkness. She had seen them her whole life, but she had never really looked at them before. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Home," Jake said. "Earth. I haven't been back in 2 years. Do you miss it?" "Sometimes." He pointed at a small star in the corner of the window. "See that one? That's Sol, Earth's sun. It's very far from here. But knowing it's there makes me feel connected, like I'm not completely lost." Nira looked at the small light. It looked like all the other stars. But to Jake, it was special. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Jake's eyes lit up. He loved talking about his home. He told her about blue oceans that covered most of the planet. He told her about forests with trees so tall they touched the clouds. He told her about snow that fell from the sky and covered everything in white. He told her about his childhood, about his mother who taught him to cook, about his father who taught him to fix machines, about his dog, a big brown animal named Biscuit, who used to sleep at the foot of his bed. Nir listened to every word. No one had ever talked to her like this. In the palace, conversations were about politics, duties, and responsibilities. No one asked about her day. No one shared their memories. No one cared about her thoughts. "What about you?" Jake asked. "What did you like to do before?" "Before everything?" Nira did not understand the question. "What do you mean?" "I mean for fun. What were your hobbies? What made you happy?" She opened her mouth to answer. Then she closed it. She realized she did not know that her whole life had been about duty. She was raised to be a queen. She learned languages, politics, and royal customs. She learned how to walk, how to speak, how to sit. But no one ever asked what she wanted. No one ever asked what she liked. I do not know," she admitted. "I never thought about it." Jake looked at her with sad eyes. Not with pity, but with understanding. "Then, maybe it's time to find out." Over the next few weeks, he helped her try new things. He taught her how to play cards. She was bad at first, but she got better. She even won a few games against Brenda. He showed her Earth movies on the ship's old screen. She cried during a sad one about a dog. She laughed during a funny one about a man who kept making mistakes. She discovered that she loved comedies. Henry taught her how to cook simple meals. She burned the first dish, and the second one. But the third one was actually good, and she felt proud in a way she had never felt before. Brenda taught her about machines. Nira was good with her hands. She learned to fix small things on the ship. Every time she solved a problem, she smiled. Slowly, day by day, Nira discovered herself. She learned that she liked sweet foods more than salty ones. She learned that her favorite color was yellow because it reminded her of warm things. She learned that she liked music with no words, just soft sounds. She was becoming a person. Not a queen, not a wife, not a failure, just Nira. One night, Jake found her crying by the window. He sat beside her without speaking. He just waited. "No one ever asked me what I liked before," she whispered. "My whole life, I was told what to do, what to be, who to marry. I was just a thing, a tool. And when I broke, they threw me away." Jake took her hand gently. "You're not broken. You were never broken. They were wrong. Your whole empire is wrong." She looked at him with tears in her silver eyes. "You are so strange, Jake Miller. Why do you care so much?" "Because you deserve to be cared about." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Like it was not something revolutionary. But for Nira, it changed everything. The next day, she woke up feeling different, lighter, like something heavy had fallen off her shoulders. She looked at herself in the mirror and did not see a disgraced queen. She saw a woman with her whole life ahead of her. But the peace did not last. 2 days later, Jake received a message. It came on the ship's communication screen. The face that appeared was cold and proud, with dark blue skin and golden eyes. Emperor Talon himself. "Human," the Emperor said, "I know you have my former wife. Return her to me, and you will be rewarded. Refuse, and you will face the anger of the Valari Empire." Jake looked at the screen calmly. "She's not your wife anymore. You threw her away, remember? She is Valari property. She belongs to us. She's not property. She's a person." The Emperor's eyes grew hard. "You have 1 week to deliver her to the nearest Valari station. If you do not, I will come for her myself. And I will destroy everything in my way." The screen went dark. Brenda and Henry looked scared. The Valari Empire was powerful. They had thousands of ships. The Wanderer was just one small vessel with 3 humans and 1 alien woman. Jake turned to Nira. She looked terrified. "I will go," she said quickly. "I do not want you to die for me." Jake shook his head. He looked at the communication system and recorded a reply. He sent it to the Emperor with a single sentence. "She's not cargo. She's crew. Come and try." Then he turned off the screen and looked at his friends. "We need a plan." The Wanderer needed fuel and supplies. They had been flying for weeks, and the ship could not run forever. They needed to stop somewhere, even with the Emperor hunting them. Jake chose Port Siren, a trading station in neutral space. It was a massive structure floating between star systems. Ships from many species came there to buy, sell, and trade. It was busy and crowded, a good place to hide. "Stay close to me," Jake told Nira as they prepared to leave the ship. "Keep your head down. We get what we need and we leave." Nira nodded. She was nervous. This would be her first time around other people since Jake rescued her. She did not know how to act anymore. She was no longer a queen. She did not know who she was. Brenda gave her some human clothes to wear. Simple pants and a warm jacket. Nira looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like nobody special. For the first time, she liked that. They left the ship together, all 4 of them. The station was loud and colorful. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through the markets. There were tall insect creatures selling crystals, small furry beings trading food, robot merchants offering machine parts. Nira looked around with wide eyes. She had lived her whole life in a palace, surrounded by only Valari. She had never seen so many different species in one place. "It's amazing," she whispered. Jake smiled. "Welcome to the real galaxy." They walked through the market slowly. Henry went to buy fuel. Brenda went to find machine parts. Jake stayed with Nira helping her pick out some clothes of her own. "What color do you like?" he asked. Nira thought about it. She remembered what she had learned on the ship. "Yellow," she said. "I like yellow." Jake found a yellow scarf made of soft fabric. He bought it for her without asking the price. She wrapped it around her neck and smiled. It was the first thing she had ever owned that she chose for herself. They walked through the food section of the market. There were strange smells everywhere. Nira stopped at a stall selling something sweet and round. "What is that?" she asked. The seller was a friendly human woman. "It's called a donut. Want to try one?" Nira looked at Jake. He nodded and paid for two. He gave one to her and kept one for himself. She took a bite. It was soft and sweet and covered in sugar. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. "I love this," she said, her mouth full. Jake laughed. She realized it was the first time she had made him laugh. It felt good, but then everything changed. A group of Valari walked past them. They were tall and proud, with blue skin and fine clothes. Merchants, probably. Rich ones. One of them stopped. He stared at Nira with wide eyes. Then his face twisted with disgust. "The barren one," he said loudly. "The disgraced queen. She still lives." The other Valari turned to look. Their faces showed the same disgust. People around them stopped to watch. Suddenly, everyone was staring at Nira. "Cursed flesh," another Valari said. "You should have died with honor. Instead, you run like a coward." Nira felt her heart breaking. All the progress she had made, all the happiness she had found, it all crumbled in an instant. She was back in the palace, being told she was worthless. She was garbage again. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But Jake stepped in front of her. "Walk away," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but his eyes were dangerous. The first Valari laughed. "A human? Protecting this broken thing? Do you not know what she is? She is nothing. She has no value. She has more value than your entire empire." The Valari stopped laughing. "What did you say?" Jake's voice grew louder. People around them went quiet. They were all listening now. "On Earth, where I come from, we don't measure a person's worth by what they can produce. We don't throw people away because their bodies don't work the way we want. We believe that every person has value just because they exist. Every person deserves love and respect." He looked at Nira, then back at the Valari. "You call her broken? You're the ones who are broken. Your culture is broken. You threw away a beautiful, intelligent, kind woman because she couldn't give you babies. That's not strength. That's cruelty. That's evil." The market was completely silent now. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The Valari's face was red with anger. "You know nothing, human. You are children playing in the stars. Your species has been in space for only 300 years. We have been here for 10,000. Then maybe in 10,000 years, you should have learned to be better." The Valari looked like he wanted to fight, but there were too many witnesses, too many different species watching. He spit on the ground near Jake's feet and walked away with his group. Nira was shaking. Jake turned to her and put his hands on her shoulders. "Don't listen to them," he said softly. "They're wrong. They've always been wrong." Tears fell from her silver eyes. "No one has ever stood up for me before. No one. Then everyone else was wrong too." That night, they stayed in a small room at the station. It was cheaper than flying the ship around. Henry and Brenda shared one room. Jake let Nira have the bed in his room while he slept on a chair. But Nira could not sleep. She lay in the dark, thinking about what Jake had said. He had called her beautiful. He had called her intelligent. He had called her kind. Nobody had ever used those words about her. In the palace. She was only the third queen, She was only valuable because of what she could give the Emperor. When she could not give him children, she became nothing. But Jake saw something else. He saw her. The real her. Not her title. Not her body. Just her dot around midnight. She heard footsteps outside the door. Soft and careful. Someone was trying to be quiet. She sat up in bed. Something felt wrong. The door opened slowly. A figure in black came inside, moving like a shadow. Nira saw a flash of silver in the darkness. A knife. She screamed. Jake woke up instantly. He jumped from the chair and threw himself at the attacker. They crashed to the floor together. The assassin was Valari, a woman with cold eyes and fast hands. She was trained, professional. She swung her knife at Jake's face. He caught her arm, but she twisted free. The blade cut across his shoulder. Blood flew through the air. Nira screamed again. She grabbed a lamp from the table and threw it at the assassin. It hit her in the head. The woman fell back. Jake tackled her again. This time, he held her down. He hit her once, twice, 3 times, until she stopped moving. The room was silent, except for their heavy breathing. Jake stood up slowly. His shoulder was bleeding badly. His face was pale from pain. Jake. Nira ran to him. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." "Are you okay?" "Me?" "You're asking about me." "You're bleeding." Brenda and Henry rushed in. They saw the blood, the unconscious assassin, the broken lamp. "What happened?" Brenda gasped. "Someone wanted to finish what the Emperor started," Jake said grimly. "They called station security." The assassin was taken away. A medical team fixed Jake's shoulder. He would have a scar, but he would live. Later, when everything was quiet, Nira sat beside his bed. He was resting but not sleeping. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you risk your life for me?" Jake opened his eyes and looked at her. "I told you before. Because you matter, but you could have died. Some things are worth dying for." He reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak but warm. "You're worth protecting, Nira. I don't care what your Emperor says. I don't care what your whole species says. You are valuable. You are important. And I will keep protecting you until you believe it yourself." Nira held his hand and cried. But for the first time in her life, she cried because she was happy. Because someone cared. Because she was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worth something after all. And in that moment, she knew she was falling in love with him. The Wanderer flew as fast as it could toward human space. Jake's shoulder was healing, but slowly. He sat in the captain's chair with bandages wrapped around his arm. His face was tired but determined. They had been flying for 6 days without stopping. "How much farther?" Brenda asked from the engine room. 2 more days, Henry said from his navigation screen. "If the engine holds." The engine was old. It made strange sounds. It needed rest. But they could not stop. The Emperor was coming. Nira sat quietly in the corner, watching Jake. He had almost died for her. He had taken a knife to protect her life. Every time she looked at the bandages on his shoulder, she felt her heart hurt. She had never met anyone like him. In her world, people used each other. They traded favors like business. They made deals. Nobody gave anything for free, but Jake did. He gave without expecting anything back. He protected without asking for payment. He cared without conditions. She did not understand him. But she loved him. She knew that now, on the 7th day, everything fell apart. A message came through the ship's communication system. It was a broadcast sent to all channels. Everyone in the galaxy could hear it. Emperor Talon's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm and cold, like he was discussing the weather. "To all species of the Galactic Confederation," he said, I am addressing you today about a matter of justice. A human criminal has stolen property from the Valari Empire. He is harboring a fugitive and has refused to follow the law. Jake watched with hard eyes. This human is traveling toward the colony on New Haven, the Emperor continued. I am giving him one final chance. Deliver the fugitive to me within 48 hours. If he refuses, I will be forced to take action. My fleet is currently positioned near New Haven. 100,000 human civilians live there. Their safety depends on this criminal's choice. The message ended. The ship was silent. He's threatening to attack New Haven? Brenda's voice was shaking. He would kill 100,000 people? To get what he wants? Yes. Jake's voice was quiet but angry. He sees Nira as property. He won't stop until he gets her back. Then we have to give her to him, Brenda said. She looked at Nira with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. I don't want to. But we can't let 100,000 people die. Brenda, Henry started. No. Think about it. Children live there. Families. Old people. Are we going to let them all die for one person? Nira stood up slowly. Her face was calm, but inside she was breaking. She is right, Nira said quietly. I cannot let innocent people suffer because of me. I will go to him. No. Jake stood up from his chair. Absolutely not. Jake, please understand. This is my choice. My life is not worth more than 100,000 others. That's not the point. Jake walked to her and grabbed her hands. If we give you to him, he wins. His whole way of thinking wins. The idea that some people can be thrown away wins. I won't let that happen. Then what do? Fight his entire fleet? We have one old ship and 4 people. Jake was quiet for a moment. His mind was racing. There had to be another way. There had to be. Then an idea came to him. The Emperor's power comes from fear and silence, Jake said slowly. Nobody in the galaxy knows what he did to you. Nobody knows why you were abandoned. If they knew the truth, they would not care, Nira said sadly. The Valari have done cruel things before. Other species look the other way. Maybe the other species do, but humans don't. Jake looked at Henry. Can we broadcast a message to all channels? Like the Emperor did? Henry nodded. Yes, it's possible. Then we tell everyone the truth. We tell Nira's story. All of it. Nira's eyes went wide. You want me to speak? To everyone? Yes. Let the galaxy hear what they did to you. Let them see who the Emperor really is. But I am ashamed. The whole galaxy will know that I am. That I cannot. Jake took her face in his hands gently. Listen to me. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Your body doesn't define your worth. What happened to you was wrong, and the galaxy needs to know. Maybe it won't change anything. Maybe the Emperor will attack anyway. But at least the truth will be out there. At least people will have to choose a side. Nira looked into his eyes. She saw no doubt there. No fear, only belief. Belief in her. She took a deep breath. Okay, I will do it. They set up the broadcast quickly. Nira sat in front of the camera. Her hands were shaking. She had given speeches before, in the palace, in front of thousands. But those speeches were written by others. Those words were not hers. This time, she had to speak from her heart. The red light turned on. They were live. Every ship, every station, every planet with a communication system could hear her now. My name is Nira, she began. Her voice was shaking but clear. I was the 3rd queen of the Valari Empire. 3 years ago, I was thrown away like garbage because my body could not produce children. She told them everything. She told them about the tests, the doctors, the shame. She told them about being chained in a ship and left to die in empty space. She told him about the cold, the hunger, the loneliness. She told him about Jake, about the human who found her and saved her without asking for anything, about his crew who treated her like a person, not a tool, about learning to play cards and cook food and laugh at movies. She told them about the assassin, about Jake taking a knife to protect her. And then she said something she had never said before. In the Valari Empire, I was taught that my only value was in my womb. If I could not produce children, I was worthless. I believed this for my whole life. But now I know it was a lie. The humans showed me the truth. Every person has value just because they exist. Love is not a transaction. It is a gift. Tears ran down her face, but she did not stop. Emperor Talon is threatening to kill 100,000 innocent people to get me back. Not because he loves me, not because he misses me, but because I am his property and he cannot stand that I escaped. I am asking the galaxy to see him for what he is, a tyrant, a monster, and I am asking you to stand against him. The broadcast ended. The ship was silent. Then Henry's screen started flashing. Messages were coming in. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. People were responding. Some were angry. Some were sad. Some were shocked. But many were supportive. Humans across the galaxy were sharing her story. Other species were watching and asking questions. News channels were picking up the broadcast. The Galactic Confederation issued a statement within hours. They condemned the Emperor's threats. They refused to support any attack on human civilians. Emperor Talon's own people started asking questions. Young Velari on social networks were talking about Nira. Some called her a liar, but many believed her. They started questioning their own culture, their own traditions. The Emperor waited at the border of human space. His fleet was ready, but he did not attack because now the whole galaxy was watching. And even he could not kill 100,000 people with everyone's eyes on him. Jake got a message the next day. The Confederation was sending ships to escort the Wanderer safely to Earth. The Emperor could not touch them now. Nira found Jake alone in the main room. He was looking out the window at the stars again. "We did it," she said softly. He turned to her and smiled. "You did it. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen." She walked to him and stood very close. "I was not brave. I was terrified. But you believed in me. You made me believe in myself." Jake reached out and touched her face gently. "Nira, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I think I've been falling in love with you for a while now. Maybe since the first day I found you. I didn't want to say anything because you've been through so much. I didn't want to pressure you. But after everything that happened, I don't want to wait anymore." Nira felt her heart beat faster. "Jake Miller, you are the strangest human I have ever met. You are kind when you could be cruel. You are soft when you could be hard. You see beauty where others see nothing." She leaned closer. "And I love you too." Their first kiss was soft and warm. It tasted like hope and new beginnings. Outside the window, the stars kept shining. Somewhere far away, an emperor sat alone with his anger. But on this small ship, traveling toward Earth, two people had found something more powerful than any empire. They had found each other. 1 year had passed since the broadcast. The galaxy had changed. Not completely. Not everywhere. But enough. Nira's story had started a conversation that spread like fire across the stars. On Valari worlds, young people were questioning old traditions. They asked why women were valued only for producing children. They asked why infertility was treated as a crime. They asked why love was never mentioned in marriage contracts. Some older Valari hated this. They called it pollution from human culture. They blamed Nira for everything. Emperor Talon still called her a traitor and a shame to her species. But many others listened. They saw the cruelty that had always been there, hiding behind tradition. They wanted something better. Nira had become a symbol. The discarded queen who refused to stay discarded. She now lived on Earth, in a city called New Geneva. It was beautiful there. Glass towers rose toward the sky. Parks full of trees and flowers filled every neighborhood. Hover cars flew silently through the air. But Nira's favorite thing about Earth was the rain. On her home world, it never rained. The sky was always clear and dry. But on Earth, water fell from the clouds, soft and cool. The first time she stood in the rain, she cried. It felt like the sky was washing away her old life, leaving only the new one. Today was an important day. Nira was giving a speech at the United Earth Assembly. Leaders from all over the planet were there. So were representatives from other species who supported her cause. She stood backstage, looking at her notes. She was nervous. Public speaking was still hard for her. But Jake had helped her practice all week. Jake. Her heart warmed just thinking about him. He was somewhere in the audience now, waiting to watch her. He had been her rock this whole year. When she had nightmares about the Emperor, he held her. When she doubted herself, he reminded her of her strength. When she felt like giving up, he made her laugh. He had shown her what love really meant. Not a contract, not a transaction. Just two people choosing each other every single day. A voice came through the speaker. Please welcome Nira, ambassador of the Valari reform movement. She walked onto the stage. The hall was huge. Thousands of people sat in rows, looking up at her. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting to billions across the galaxy. Her heart beat so fast she thought it would explode. Then she saw Jake. He was sitting in the front row, next to Brenda and Henry. He smiled at her and gave a small wave. She took a deep breath and began. 1 year ago, I was found in a broken ship, chained like an animal, left to die by people who said I had no value. I believed them. For years, I believed that I was worthless because my body could not do what they wanted. Her voice grew stronger. But then I met humans. Strange, emotional, wonderful humans. They showed me something my culture never taught me. They showed me that a person's worth is not measured by what they produce. It is not measured by their job or their body or their title. A person's worth simply exists. It is given at birth and can never be taken away. She looked across the audience. People were listening carefully. Some had tears in their eyes. Today, I stand before you not as a queen, not as a symbol, but as a person. A person who was thrown away and found again. A person who learned that she mattered, not because of what she could give, but because of who she was. She paused and looked directly at Jake. And I stand here because one man saw treasure where others saw garbage. He did not save me because he expected a reward. He did not help me because he wanted something back. He helped me because he believed it was right. Because of him, I learned to believe in myself again. She finished her speech with a message for the galaxy. To everyone listening who's been told they are not enough, who has been thrown away by people who should have loved them, I want you to know something. You matter. You have always mattered. And no emperor, no tradition, no cruel words can ever change that. The hall exploded with applause. After the speech, there was a reception with food and drinks. Important people came to shake Nira's hand. Politicians, business leaders, celebrities. She smiled and thanked them all. But she only wanted to see one person. She found Jake near the back of the room, standing alone with a glass of water. You were amazing, he said. I was terrified. That's what makes it amazing. He took her hand. Walk with me? They left the reception and went outside. It was evening now. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They walked through a park with old trees and winding paths. Jake led her to a cherry blossom tree. The flowers were in full bloom, soft pink against the darkening sky. Petals fell slowly around them like gentle snow. "What is this tree?" Nira asked. "It's called a cherry blossom. On Earth, they only bloom for a short time each year. Then the petals fall and the flowers are gone." Nira looked at the falling petals. "That is sad." "Maybe, but that's also what makes them beautiful." Jake picked up a petal from the ground. "These flowers remind us that life is short and precious. They teach us to enjoy what we have while we have it." He turned to face her. His eyes were serious but soft. "Mira, when I found you on that ship, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't plan to fall in love. I didn't plan to fight an emperor or broadcast to the entire galaxy. I just knew that you deserved to live, that you deserved to be happy." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a pendant on a silver chain. Inside the pendant was a preserved cherry blossom petal, frozen in clear glass forever. On Earth, we have a tradition. When two people want to spend their lives together, one of them asks the other. It's a promise. A choice. Nira's heart stopped. Jake got down on one knee. "Nira, I know we come from different worlds. I know our lives have been complicated. But I also know that I love you more than I have ever loved anyone. You are not my property. You are not my treasure. You are my partner, my equal, my best friend." Tears fell from Nira's silver eyes. "Will you marry me?" She could not speak. Her throat was too tight. So she just nodded, again and again, while tears ran down her face. Jake stood up and put the pendant around her neck. The cherry blossom rested against her heart. He kissed her softly while petals fell around them. 3 years later, Nira stood in the kitchen of their small farmhouse outside New Geneva. The sun was shining through the window. She could smell bread baking in the oven, a recipe that Henry had taught her. A small voice called from the living room. "Mom!" She smiled and walked to the doorway. 3 children sat on the floor, playing with toys. Anna was 8 years old, a human girl with brown hair and bright eyes. Jake and Nira had adopted her from an orphanage 2 years ago. She had lost her parents in a shuttle accident. Next to her sat Luke, 6 years old, also human. He was quiet and shy with a love for books and puzzles. He had been abandoned at a hospital when he was a baby, and sitting between them was Kira, 4 years old. A Valari girl with pale blue skin and silver eyes, just like Nira. She had been declared defective by her own people because she was born with a weak leg. She could walk, but slowly. The Valari considered her worthless. Nira had found her through the Reform Network. She had traveled back to Valari space herself to rescue the little girl. It had been dangerous. But some things were worth the risk. "What is it, Emma?" Nira asked. "Can we have cookies before dinner?" "Nice try." "After dinner, please?" "No." Emma made a sad face. Luke laughed. Kira copied Emma's sad face, then laughed too. The front door opened. Jake walked in, carrying a basket of vegetables from their garden. His hair was longer now, with some gray at the sides. He had smile lines around his eyes. "I heard something about cookies," he said. "Your daughters are trying to break the rules." "Our daughters," he corrected with a smile. He put down the basket and kissed her cheek. "And the answer is still no cookies before dinner." Emma groaned dramatically. The other children giggled. That evening, they all sat around the big wooden table for dinner. There was bread and soup and vegetables. Simple food, but made with love. They held hands while Jake said a few grateful words. After dinner, they went outside to watch the sunset. Jake carried Kira on his shoulders. Emma held Luke's hand. Nira walked beside them, feeling the warm evening air on her skin. She looked at her family, her strange, beautiful, imperfect family. None of them were connected by blood. None of them were supposed to be together. But here they were. Jake caught her looking and smiled. "What are you thinking about?" Nira watched her children playing in the grass. She touched the cherry blossom pendant that she still wore every day. "I am thinking about how wrong they were," she said. "The emperor, the doctors, everyone who said I had no value because I could not have children." She looked at Jake with shining eyes. "I have 3 children now. They did not come from my body, but they came from my heart. And that makes them mine, more than anything could." Jake put his arm around her. "You built something more powerful than any empire. You know that? You built a family." Nira leaned into him and watched the sun disappear below the horizon. The sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue. Stars began to appear, one by one. Somewhere out there, the Valari Empire still existed. Emperor Talon still ruled with his cold heart. But things were changing. Slowly, piece by piece. Young Valari were fighting for reform. The old ways were crumbling, and it had all started with one abandoned queen and one human who saw her true worth. Nira had once been thrown away like garbage.